Hello, I'm Britton Clennett and welcome to China Insight, where we discuss the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. Well, there are 55 ethnic minority groups in China with unique customs and age-old traditions that for years have drawn in busloads of Chinese tourists and their wallets. But is this cultural tourism a blessing or a curse? Some argue it helps to preserve traditions otherwise at threat of extinction in modern China. Others worry it's meddling in their traditional way of life. Joining me in the studio today is Zhang Mei, founder of Wild China, a company offering off-the-beaten-track adventures to Chinese travellers. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now, China is made up mostly of Han Chinese, but there are 55 ethnic minorities. Can you talk me through how diverse this group of 55 minorities is?
I think in Beijing, Shanghai, walking around, you will never know that you're running into another ethnic community person because we all look the same. But once you leave, once they put on their traditional costumes or you go to their home areas, very different. The 55, the biggest ones, are Zhuangzu in Guangxi province, which some of the population is in Vietnam as well, and Manchus, Manchurians in northern China. These are the biggest populations you would never know. Zhuang has about, I think, 17 million people as of last time I checked. And they have, part of their life is just like any other Chinese, but the traditions, the festivals, the wedding ceremonies, even traditional outfits are completely different. And they coexist. I don't think, there's some cling to one and some cling to the other. A lot of people have both sides of their way of living.
And of course, lately there's been this kind of trend, this growing desire to get an insight into their way of life. Can you talk us through why that even exists? Why would people want to have that kind of experience?
Well, I think that goes back to the intrinsic question of why we travel, right? I think initially a lot of people are traveling to have a photo in front of an iconic building to say, I've been there, done it. But deep down, there is a yearning to learn, to experience something that is different from what you are used to on a daily basis. And visiting an ethnic community that is different from you, to me, it's almost like visiting a different country.
Now, the pros and cons of this kind of cultural tourism is something that China Insight reporter Joey Catanzaro brings up on a visit to Hainan. Let's take a look.
Deep in the jungles of Hainan in southern China, in this isolated rural village, the Li people are performing a traditional dance, much as they have done for thousands of years. But while the masks and the movements remain unchanged by time, the same cannot be said for the world around them. The 21st century is closing in on China's minority ethnic groups. The question is, will development help preserve or destroy these ancient cultures?
This particular dance is a ritual designed to bring in good harvest. But what the villagers are really hoping for now is a rain of tourism dollars.
Since time before memory, the matriarchs of this Li minority village have practiced this ancient form of weaving. But the click-clack of their looms is in danger of falling silent. The elders say tradition here hangs by a thread.
This is Pekan. She has the traditional Li tattoos on her face and body so that her ancestors will recognise her after death. She's been practicing this ancient form of weaving for more than 60 years. She's 71 years old, but she says her children are unlikely to follow in her footsteps. Pekan, can you tell us why your children probably won't follow in your footsteps?
In addition to the dominant Han Chinese, the nation boasts a further 55 ethnic groups, most with unique languages and traditions that stretch back millennia. But many of their young are walking away from their heritage, lured by the bright lights and promising pay packets of modern China's megacities. Villages like this one in remote Hainan have become time capsules, largely filled with old people and children. Now, undeveloped places like this are serving up something that China's rising middle class are willing to pay for. An exotic experience and a window into the past. It's a new kind of tourism of cash for culture.
Oh, sure.
好吃是吧？
Could you tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and how the tourism industry is affecting your life?
我觉得这个，关旅游这一块，就说如果这里能发展成一个旅游的景点的话，这会带动我们本地的一些经济，来展示这个我们的一些少数民族的一些东西，包括这些美食。美食的话都是我们自己做的。
But the tourists haven't arrived yet.
我们这个村呢是2008年被国家批为这个非物质文化遗产。我们为了保护这个传心屋，现在我们村全部都搬出去了。
This is the village chief. He says his people relocated just down the road in 2009.
小的时候我们一直都住在这里，这些床，还有这个茅草啊，这些都是自己割草以后自己编出来的。
The village chief hopes tourism will preserve his culture by making it economically viable, creating jobs for the young.
很多年轻人都出外面打工，都不在村子，有很多传统文化都不学。
This is the new village next door to the old one, and conditions are basic. Hainan is one of China's most popular tourism destinations, receiving about 50 million visitors per year. The villagers farm, raise livestock, and wait in hope for the tourists to arrive.
I heard your income is much lower than in the city.
我们这个村是我们东方市，收入最低的，才有2100。我们现在整个村都想发展旅游业，靠这个旅游业来带动经济的发展。让我们去看一下。
People here are banking on the old village becoming an attraction. It's why they relocated. The expected sales of handicrafts and food and guided tours will bring much needed income.
The villagers hope the tourism boom that swept tropical Hainan will come here to this village, turning what was once just a way of life into an industry of cash for culture. It's happening to minorities all across China. But the big question is, will this newfound commercial viability help preserve these ancient cultures? Or will the bottom line trump tradition?
Work hard and raise living standards is the motto on the billboards here. For some, that's meant abandoning the old ways.
我叫王学林，是少数民族黎族的。我来这里实习，毕业到现在已经3年时间，在这里工作。
Shui Lin left his village and culture behind for a steady pay packet on this farm. He's one of the young Li people turning their back on the old for the new.
带你来看一下，尝一下，好吃。
He says while he's lost his culture, the fruits of his labour mean he's found a way to make a living in the modern world.
What made you decide to leave your village?
主要是一个年轻人待在村里也没意义，又没钱，出去哪里也不方便，你交个手机话费都没钱交，只能出来工作啊。
So you're saying that there's only old people and children left behind there. Do you think young people today just aren't interested in preserving their culture?
这个我不怎么清楚，应该是村里面有些人是会懂的，因为我们少接触嘛，很少看到老人上啦，久看到有人在桌上，老人喝酒啊，就开始上。
In the past decade, Hainan's tourism industry has begun to boom and bloom. The country's tropical southernmost province is now a playground for China's rich and rising middle class, attracting about 50 million visitors every year. The cultivated grounds of this flower farm near Hainan's resort-lined beaches are now an attraction and a big employer for ethnic minority people like Chen Zhishu, who had to leave his village to find work. But the increased living standard he now enjoys has been hard-won.
I don't know.
Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
这个在当时候的话呢，我小的时候，就是家里都比较的穷，都是那个我的爷爷奶奶把我带大的，因为父母基本上都出去打工了。我曾经呢也在过旅行社，包括这个旅游景点呢都有工作过。这是我头一回，也就是我第一次在离家乡那么近的地方呢去工作。 而且的话呢，就是拥有了比外面打工的工资呢还要相对来说比较高一些。
But home has changed a lot.
Do you think tourism is helping to preserve Li culture, or is it ruining it?
其实这样的，那个如果是说旅游的话呢，对我们海南的少数民族的文化确实呢存在一定的影响，但是政府的话已经逐渐的保护起来了。
The Li aren't the only ethnic minority in Hainan. The Hui are descendants of the Arab and Persian merchants who came to China along the ancient Silk Road. Predominantly Muslim, most still answer the call to prayer, although many are also answering the call of the modern world.
The modern age has brought rapid change to China's ethnic minority groups. But while these changes are lifting living standards, here in Hainan, China's southernmost province, some believe it's too much too soon, and that the old ways are in danger of disappearing, the old songs under threat of falling silent forever.
But the Hui of Hainan insist their culture remains unchanged where it counts, and as the call to prayer rings out, the faithful gather.
每年都这里来。澳大利亚有没有回民啊？
穆斯林朋友的在澳大利亚。
你也有穆斯林的朋友在澳大利亚。
Many of those who have come here today aren't locals. Quite a few of them are tourists. There is an estimated 10 million Hui people in China, and for the most part, the population is concentrated in the nation's northwest. Many make the trip to Hainan and the Muslim community here for a holiday. And while the Hui culture is still thriving in China, among its young people, some are bowing to small pressures from the modern world. In some cases, traditional garb is being traded for fashionable clothing.
我自己觉得啊，有一些文化的东西，还有习俗的好的这些传统，它本身就是像我们的衣服一样的，它会保护身体。如果这些传统都没了，那人像没有衣服一样，风会吹，蚊子会咬，很容易感冒的，甚至会害重病。
Ha Xiaolin is one of the leaders of the local Hui community and a businessman who owns a company that makes traditional Hui scarves and clothing. This is his daughter, Ha Na, who helps run the business. Much of the product their company makes is sold to Muslim tourists, although Na insists this has not turned their culture into a commodity. She says she believes the way of the Hui remains intact where it counts.
我觉得有生活习惯的不同吧。现在的生活可以从那个手机上、互联网上面，包括很多那种社交网站，你可以了解到更多外面的信息，吸取到自己身上，然后会更加促进自己去改变。
Up in Hainan's interior, there's rice to grow, rubber trees to tap, and not much else. The Li people who call this mountain village home live a humble lifestyle. It's why their young are leaving and why the elders want tourists to come and sample traditional Li life, creating jobs for their children. Up here in the high country, if the past doesn't begin to pay, many believe there's no future in it.
这小孩的话，好像就是他对好像有点慢慢的改变了，是说，比如说像我们这黎族方言呐，但是说好像好多都是要说普通话了。
To ensure their past has a future, people here are walking the fine line between culture and commodity.
Where it hasn't already arrived, change is coming fast. Only time will tell what this new harvest of tourism dollars and modern wages brings for these ancient cultures. But one thing is certain, if they don't find a way into the 21st century, something beautiful and unique will be lost forever. I'm Joey Catanzaro reporting for China Insight.
How beneficial is this kind of tourism to the livelihoods of the people who live there?
I think in certain parts of the country, this is almost the sole income for some people. Like for these villages, probably traditionally it's agrarian, but as you can tell, $2 a day, it's very hard work to plant rice, and naturally more and more people are looking for a quicker way to make money. And tourism, unfortunately or fortunately, has proven a pretty quick shortcut to wealth, but comes with a double-edged sword. Yeah.
And speaking of that double-edged sword, you know, at the beginning we saw that traditional dance. I mean, presumably there was a crowd of people watching that dance. Is something lost in that, you know, when it just becomes this performance, this show?
This is one of the things that pains me a lot. Once I remember in Yunnan at a Wa community on the border with Myanmar. The dancing with beautiful black hair, you know, really strong moves, and it was mesmerizing. And the dancers were very close to us. And I was fortunate as a guest of the local government, so you could be so close and you are touched by the power of the dance, and you're like, this is the most beautiful thing that I want everybody to enjoy it. But then when you try to scale it up, which is always tourism will try to find a unique, beautiful serendipity kind of a moment and make it happen, repeat, on call, in large volume. Once you do that, you put it in on the stage. Now here it can go wrong. It can go in two different directions, I believe. One is if you put it as a ethnic village, 3 o'clock set show, without a whole lot of beautiful curation, it can become like a circus show. You're just like, you know, everybody gathers, oh, look at them. There's a little condescending kind of attitude in the audience.
Is it such a dirty thing to, you know, as Joey calls it, cashing in on culture? You know, there are huge benefits to it as well. You know, would these traditions survive otherwise?
Absolutely. I mean, you hear, one thing I was noticing throughout the show, the one constant theme is 钱. There's no money to be made staying in the village. Oh, my son left to go work in the city because there's not enough money. And even Joey asked the question, would profit eventually trump tradition? I think it's wrong to pitch money and tradition conservation against each other.
Right.
I think they can work together. It's just, you know, working in their local ethnic village, working, you know, planting rice or staying in traditional villages, living in a traditional way, does not have to mean poverty, or lack of money. And tourism also doesn't have to mean this very low-quality tourist experience, bus tourist experience that comes in and tastes all the food and sees all the exhibits and exits within an hour, 2 hours. Tourism doesn't have to be defined that way. If you do tourism, ethnic tourism, with taste, with a lot of care, with a lot of learning exchange among travelers and the local hosts, it can be an amazing experience and very profitable.
But that's how, you know, your company does it. That's not to say that all the other travel companies offer that experience as well.
But I don't have the monopoly on that. You know, if Wild China can do it, everybody else can do it.
But is that the trend? Are more companies doing it?
I think there are more. I mean, it's difficult, to be honest, to do things on a small scale. One thing Wild China does is we don't run this big bus to a village. We take a couple of individual travelers with a local host to really live with them for a day. I mean, you don't have to sleep in the house. You return to your beautiful, you know, banyan tree or amang at night, but during the day you really live a local life, immersion, complete immersion, which is beautiful. But to do that, it takes detailed program design. You need to develop these relationships with the villagers carefully so that they are not doing this to make, to turn it into a big circus show. They are doing it because they're proud of it, because that's the way they live. And that's what we hear most from our guests and guides is they feel like they're being welcomed into people's homes.
But is this what the Chinese tourist wants now? This authentic experience?
Oh, yes. Yes, very much so, I think. I think it's harder to access outside China because of language barrier. But very often, if you scroll on your WeChat Chinese friends, they will show like, oh, in Italy, we found this mama who's cooking us pasta and we joined her in the kitchen. Those are the ultimate travel experiences people are looking for, which is the same thing.
Okay, but what happens, we saw in that video, young people are leaving because they don't necessarily, find a job in the cities that's, more economically viable for them than staying in their villages where they might not want to be anyway.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, actually, because, you saw that gentleman who runs the flower farm visit thing. He returned home. He works very close to home and he's making more money than he could do in other cities. So there will always be local entrepreneurs who have seen the outside world, have seen a more creative way to present their ethnic culture in tourism. It doesn't have to follow the same format. And he found some sort of a recipe that works. And I think there are more ethnic youths leave their villages and experience the outside world. The more new ideas they may be able to bring in, the more appreciation they might have for their traditions. One of the funny things, if you think, the Chinese who have gone overseas to America, they're actually more traditional than we are. They probably still do the lion dance much more so than us living in Beijing. So I think it's just cultural. Culture is a living thing, and people will find a way. If it's something of value and tradition, there will be a way it'll survive. Of course, we need to do our bit.
I want to talk to you about this new venture you have where, it's an app and everyone gets to have essentially a personal guide in different places that they go to in China. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Right. We are actually still making the app. Right now, it's a website. It's called New You Go. U is just a letter U. It rhymes with a Chinese word, 牛油果, which is avocado. I know, except the character is different. Why did we choose that? Because we wanted a fresher way, a healthier way to travel. And avocado is a healthier way, a healthier fruit. What it does is it's a platform that brings together people sharing their local experiences to be a local guide. For example, one of our very, very popular avocado is what we call Auntie Chen. She's a Bai lady. Bai is an ethnic group in Dali. She lives 15 minutes outside the Dali Old Town, and 15 minutes, very close, but far enough that she will not benefit from the tourism crowd at all, in general, traditional tourism models. So she became an avocado, and what she offers is this authentic home cooking in her yard, under her pear trees. She'll prop a couple of rocks and a pot that stews rice and potato and ham. It's a delicious meal. So you join her for that whole cooking experience and eat together under a pear tree for a picnic lunch. And she gets paid 200 RMB for her time and effort. And you go shopping with her. Whatever ingredients you want, you buy together. Those seeking a more in-depth experience is becoming a trend more and more. And I think that's the opportunity for a lot of these ethnic communities, is to create meaningful experiences to share and not as a passive show.
Right. Okay, well, I want to talk to you more about the impact of this kind of tourism after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to China Insight. I've been discussing the benefits and pitfalls of cultural tourism with Wild China founder Zhang Mei. While in Hainan, China Insight asked several people in various industries how tourism has impacted their lives. Let's take a look.
游客来这边旅游观光了以后，我们才想到哦，这个东西可以作为一个景点，作为一个旅游资源给发掘保存下来。
现在像互联网的时代，它基本上在网上微信一扫，它就给我们下单，而且我们是私人定制，可以为您量身定做。
要看客多客少，要是客多的话，就卖东西合算点嘞，抓鱼不一定有嘞。
就是说我们工作也很自由，收入也挺好的，比以前工厂好一点。
过了这春节后就不知道怎么说了，现在的收入比打鱼多。
Earn more than they would be fishing. Is this the kind of view that you have as well? That these people really rely on tourism now?
They do rely on tourism, yeah. The pitfalls of tourism development, too fast, too easy. Money comes too quickly, and you don't think about, particularly China, because of such a large population base. Sometimes you don't have to worry about repeat customer, and you can still have a booming business because each person comes and the endless people will come. And when things become so fast, a new temple is built very quickly, a new show is produced very quickly. Where's quality? I think we're all, not just in tourism industry, manufacturing as well, we're all trying to redefine the made in China. The tourism made in China shouldn't just imply the fast food kind of bus tours. It gradually, there will be Michelin star restaurants in the tourism industry, figuratively speaking. There will be more refined artistic shows in the tourism industry. But the key here is, I hope not all of us are rushing at such speed. I hope there are more entrepreneurs who take a little bit slower pace and do one thing really well and present them really well and create a beautiful tourism experience. You hear this a lot in China, craftsmanship. Craftsmanship in jam making, craftsmanship in cooking, craftsmanship in basket weaving. One person focusing on one skill and becoming the expert and creating an experience around it. You'll see lots of these little vendors in Yunnan, and they're making very good living as compared to mass tourism.
And can you blame them? People want to make money. You know, China has experienced rapid growth.
No, I think everyone wants to make money. We all can live better, right? But if you can find a way, I fundamentally think if you find a way to connect traditional culture, because traditional culture is so beautiful, so valuable, but if you find a way to interpret it in a meaningful way, you can actually charge more money for it.
So we can have that goal, but we just need to be smarter about it, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. There should be more sort of measurements of success, not just money, but also the quality of the product. And if you have the quality, the money will come. It may not come next year, but it'll come in the next 10, 30 years. And a different way of measuring.
Thank you very much for coming on the program, Zhang Mei.
Thank you for having me.
If you have any comments or questions, please email us at chinainsight@cctv.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Weibo and WeChat. And we'll see you next time for more stories and discussion on China out of China. Goodbye.